Right, good afternoon, everyone. Welcome. It's great to have so many people joining us today. The purpose of this webinar is to provide you with more opportunity about this funding opportunity, and I'll start with some introductions to those members of the team at ESRC that you can see on the screen. I'm Alice Taylor. I'm Head of Public Policy Research at the Economic and Social Research Council, ESRC, which is part of UK Research and Innovation, UKRI. I'm joined by James Canton, Deputy Director of Public Policy and Engagement. In a minute, James will begin by giving an overview of the opportunity. He'll talk about why we've decided to make this really exciting investment and explain how it sits in a broader landscape of evidence synthesis activity. Next, I'll give a bit more detail about the opportunity, and then I'll hand over to Lauren Curtis. Lauren is a grants manager, and she'll talk us through the application and assessment process and highlight some key points. Audrey Sharp, a senior grants delivery manager, is also here to help answer any questions which relate to the application and assessment process. Before I hand over to James, I just wanted to explain a bit more about how this session will run. We have an hour to run through these slides and then to take your questions. As you'll see, we're recording this session and we'll publish the recording on the Funding Finder page after this event. You'll see that there's a Q&A function where you can submit a question, and that can be either in your name or anonymously. These questions that you submit will be moderated by colleagues, so they might not appear immediately. Don't panic. We'll answer questions after we've finished the presentations. Thanks to those of you that sent questions by email. We've done our best to answer those as we talk through the slides, and if we haven't done, please submit another question in the function. If you want to ask a follow-up question, you can request that one of our team turns your microphone on. After the webinar's finished, we'll publish a document that contains all the questions and answers that we've received. So if we don't have time today to answer them, or if we need to check something, we can respond to them in that document. We've chosen to run this event in such a way that you can see other participants, and that's to encourage collaboration between potential applicants. After the event, we plan to circulate a list of attendees to everyone that's here. So please do let us know by email, ideally by the end of the day, if you do not wish for your details to be shared. I'll now hand over to James.
Thank you, Alice, and good afternoon, everyone. I've been leading the ESRC team developing this exciting funding opportunity over the last 18 months or so, and it's fantastic to see so much interest today. Thank you all for dialing in. So in my 5 to 10 minutes, I'm going to give an overview of the strategic context. I'll talk about some of the key partnerships at play, and I'll also give a few top tips for applicants. So starting with the strategic context, why we wanted to invest in this area. ESRC has a long-standing commitment to support evidence-informed policymaking. So for over a decade, we've been investing in initiatives like the UK What Works network, and newer initiatives such as our policy observatories and our UKRI policy fellowships, and that's to improve the flow of data, evidence and expertise into public policy. However, we've been receiving a lot of feedback over that time, and that feedback has highlighted a significant gap and a constraint in getting the best evidence into policymaker hands, and that's the lack of capacity, lack of capability and infrastructure to carry out high quality timely evidence synthesis at scale and in a cost-effective way. And we think there are several reasons for this shortfall. Funders such as UKRI have tended to prioritise primary research over evidence synthesis. We also think the research sector is arguably not very good at equipping researchers with skills in evidence synthesis. And there are also broader systemic issues at play, like academic incentives, which are obviously playing a key role here as well. And yet the potential of evidence synthesis, we think, is enormous. A recent analysis we commissioned with the Government Office for Science showed that 81% of UK government priority evidence gaps could be at least partially addressed with UKRI research and grants alone. But comprehensive, up-to-date reviews for policymakers remains a bit of a rarity. And this creates, I think, a fairly troubling situation. We have this wealth of evidence and insight available, yet for many policymakers, it remains underutilised, sitting on a digital shelf, gathering dust, with governments frequently making decisions in the dark without access to the best available evidence on what works. The challenge then for this investment is not the lack of evidence, but how we make bodies of knowledge accessible, relevant and actionable for decision makers in real time. And we think we're now in a position to start addressing this gap. In late 2022 and early 2023, generative AI technologies came into the spotlight, and ESRC saw a unique opportunity to close this evidence gap I've talked about. And we undertook a consultation across the research sector and with policymakers, and that consultation indicated that by combining advances in AI with expert human judgment, we can significantly improve the speed, the quality, and the accessibility of evidence synthesis. Now, in our scoping work, we also quickly found that there is a really significant international angle here as well. This is a global challenge. We commissioned a scoping review, which is available via our specification online from Nesta, led by David Halpin, and supported by senior officials from the UK, Australia, Canada, and the US. And one of the recommendations from that review is that to make better decisions, governments should prioritise producing high quality, comprehensive living evidence reviews. Now, in terms of partnerships, there are some key partnerships we want you all to be aware of. Firstly, the United Nations, the associated global SDG Synthesis Coalition will be a major partner in this work. They are committed to working with the grant, with the investment to ensure that we're accelerating progress to the UN Sustainable Development Goals. The investment opportunity was launched at the UN Summit of the Future on September the 21st, and you can see some pictures from that event. The call opportunity was launched by UK Science Minister Lord Patrick Vallance at this event, which was sponsored by Malawi and UK governments, sponsored by the Global SDG Synthesis Coalition and the International Network for Governmental Science Advice. Now, we're also trying to balance this international focus with the needs of UK government stakeholders, and we're very keen that bidders explore how they might respond to the new UK government missions. And it's also worth saying that the UK Department for Science, Innovation and Technology is a co-funder of this opportunity. Wellcome Trust is another key player. Many of you will have seen that they've announced a significant investment in this area, aligning with ours. They've committed 45 million over 5 years, and we've been in dialogue with the Wellcome Trust to scope our respective investments. We want these investments to build on one another, so it will be really important that bidders think through how you'd collaborate with other relevant infrastructure, both from Wellcome Trust, but also more broadly. I'll just finish now with a few top tips for applicants. The first is around infrastructure. This is primarily a general purpose infrastructure investment in capability, capacity, and tools. We will not fund bids that are led from a limited thematic angle. Secondly, leadership. What we're looking for is, I think, really quite ambitious. It's a transformational project. It would be a stretch for any single leader to cover all of the ground. A strong leadership team should be at the heart of bids, and Alice will say a bit more on that in a moment. Just to reiterate one of Alice's points from a moment ago, we've received a few queries about whether ESRC can facilitate connections between potential bidders. Unfortunately, we can't do that. However, you might take note of other participants on this call today, because that will give you a good idea of who else is interested in the project. Thirdly, agility. There is significant interest in this initiative, including from other funders, and we see ESRC funding almost as seed funding. So winning bidders will need to stay agile and open to interest from other funders and policymakers as your project evolves. We want this to be a long-term sustainable infrastructure, and we see the ESRC funding as a start to that. And finally, scope. Please pay really careful attention to the specific objectives and the considerations of this call. I think we're clear on what we will and we will not fund, and Alice will go through some of that in a moment. And any proposal that falls outside of our ambition will likely be removed from the process before peer review. And Alice will talk through that in more detail in a moment. I'll finish there and hand over. Thank you.
Thanks, James. Can I have the next slide, please, Josh? Thanks very much. So I'm just going to talk through an overview of this funding opportunity and then go into a bit more detail. The aim, as you'll see here, and as we've published on the UKRI funding finder, is we want this funding opportunity to develop a transformative global infrastructure capable of providing the latest, relevant, high-quality evidence to national and international policymakers to address key policy challenges and to accelerate delivery of the UN SDGs, the Sustainable Development Goals. The funding of your project can be up to 11.5 million, 100% full economic cost, and we have a total fund of 9.2 million for this funding opportunity. And later, Lauren will talk through some of the information about international funding. There are three broad sets of objectives. The first is to advance evidence synthesis capabilities. As you'll see from the opportunity, this objective covers AI capability, researcher capability, and the capability of people who make policy. And when we talk about developing and deploying AI capability and tools, these should start with users' needs and challenges, and so the design of the tools needs to respond to those. The second broad set of objectives is around developing and delivering nationally and internationally relevant evidence synthesis products. And here we expect the application to contain a series of demonstrator projects, which are focused on topics of international interest. And we would ask that you use the nested report that James just mentioned to identify these areas, and we suggest that you select 3 or 4. You'll also need to consider alignment with the UN SDGs and evidence you've responded to user need. The third set of objectives is around improving the accessibility and usability of evidence synthesis for decision makers. So the approach here is really crucial. We're looking for iterative, collaborative approaches that include co-design and user testing with policymakers. The tools or products that are developed here need also to be developed in such a way that they can ensure the effective transferability and contextualization of evidence internationally. The next slide, have we lost the slides? Or can I just not see them?
Slides still up.
Okay, great. Sorry, the view I've got doesn't show them. If we could have the slides on considerations. So I'm just going to briefly talk through the considerations that we highlight in the funding opportunity. There's more detail on the webpage, so I'd really encourage you to look at that for more information. The leadership team that James briefly touched on, it needs to include internationally recognised experts in evidence synthesis methods. We expect the demonstrated projects to be delivered by a consortia of experts from relevant subject areas, and that they would collaborate closely with the leadership team. The team needs to include at least one project co-lead who is an international, and that's someone who's making a significant contribution to the project team. And Lauren will talk more about that in a moment. The leadership team must also demonstrate cutting-edge expertise in bridging research, evaluation, and policy making, and that's speaking to the third objective that I spoke about just now. As James has just explained, there are many partners and stakeholders, and these are detailed in the opportunity text, but we would ask that you don't approach any of them at this stage. That's something that we can facilitate for the successful applicants. This is a really exciting time in the world of evidence synthesis, I think, as James has just shown with some of those pictures from the recent UN summit. And we've developed this investment in really close collaboration with other funders and stakeholders. So we expect the successful applicants to continue in that spirit of commitment to making a collective impact and working towards a common agenda. And what this means in practical terms as you prepare an application is that you need to build in sufficient capacity to engage with these funders, partners and stakeholders, and to work collaboratively with us as the funder. Flexibility. So following on from what I just said, there's been a lot of interest in this opportunity from other funders and tech companies, and you need to build this infrastructure in such a way that it's able to seek and take advantage of opportunities to take on additional funding and to be agile in responding to advancements in technology. In terms of geographical focus, you'll need to work with both UK policymakers and consider the balance of your delivery with UK national and international policymakers and the applicability of your approaches in international settings, including the Global South. When we're talking about evidence, you need to demonstrate how the infrastructure and the demonstrator projects will define and work with different types of evidence. So that includes quantitative, qualitative, and evaluation evidence, and how you'll consistently assess the strength and the quality of that evidence. We expect initially that the work will focus on published research and grey literature, such as government and international evaluations, but longer term, you should investigate the potential to also integrate relevant raw data streams. Transferability of evidence. So you need to consider how to understand and communicate the transferability of evidence, including across different places in the UK as well as internationally, and how you might draw on contextualised forms of evidence to support this. A point on local policymaking. So this opportunity is co-funded by one of UKRI's strategic themes, creating opportunities, improving outcomes. So you'll need to demonstrate how the investment will develop evidence synthesis that is useful to decision makers at a local and a regional level in the UK. I think that should actually be local or regional level, but certainly in a subnational level in the UK. Integration with government systems. You should consider how to integrate with government policy-making systems, and you should also consider how to learn from the experiences of applying evidence synthesis in government contexts from other countries and from within the UN system. AI for science. You should consider how the use of AI will impact on the broader scientific process, and obviously you'll need to be able to respond to rapid advancements in AI. The last consideration that I'll mention is sustainability. The project team is expected to think critically about how to ensure the project's sustainability. So this includes identifying potential risks, identifying future funding sources and opportunities to secure the project's legacy and ensure that its benefits will continue to be realised beyond the period of the grant. We also include in the opportunity a description of what we will not fund. It's always helpful to say that. And so if I could have that slide, please. Thought it would be worth quickly running through that list. Apologies, I can't see the slides on the screen, so let me just refer to them here. So what we will not fund: a leadership team which does not include internationally recognised experts in evidence synthesis methodology, including AI. A leadership team which does not include a project co-lead international. A leadership team which does not include cutting-edge expertise in bridging research, evaluation and policy making. A team which is not able to demonstrate how it will work collaboratively and iteratively with partners both locally in the UK and internationally. An infrastructure which does not demonstrate the flexibility to adapt to changing priorities and partnerships, additional investment and opportunities. And then finally, bids led from a limited thematic angle. And this is what James was just speaking about. So for example, bids focused on a single topic or a single disciplinary area, rather than those that are based on a broader perspective, based on a foundational and transformative evidence synthesis infrastructure. Before I hand over to Lauren, I'm just going to talk through some key dates for our process. So you'll probably all be aware that the application deadline is the 12th of December. For the remainder of December, the team will be carrying out office checks on those applications. And then in the early part of 2025, we'll send those applications out to be reviewed by expert reviewers. We would expect that around March or April time, we would go out to the project leads for a response, and we would allow 10 days for the project lead to write that response to the information in the reviews. We anticipate that the panel meeting would take place in May, and the interviews, and we have a provisional date for interviews for those applicants that reach that stage of 5th of June. The latest date by which the funding can begin is the 1st of September, and that's when the award, which would last for 5 years, would start. And I think this is really important, this last point, and it speaks to everything we've been talking about in terms of working collaboratively. We've allowed the first 9 months of the grant to be a period of scoping and engagement and co-design, and that's really providing the applicants with an opportunity to further develop their plans in consultation and collaboration with important stakeholders. So I will now hand over to Lauren. She's going to talk us through the application and assessment process, and she's also going to cover co-lead eligibility and international funding. So over to you, Lauren.
Thank you, Alice. Hi, everyone. I'm going to discuss the application process today with you, as I'm sure some of you are aware, it's recently changed for many of you that have applied previously. You'll need to apply through our new funding service, which is our new system that has replaced the old GES system. You can no longer apply through GES. Apply using the button at the top of the Opportunity Funding Finder, which takes you through to TFS. Please follow the opportunity specific guidance that is on this webpage. As this is an ESRC project, you must have at least 50% social science in your application. Please note that the lead organisation must be UK-based and eligible for ESRC funding. Once you have completed your application, it will be sent through to TFS to your research office, who will then complete the submission of your application. Ensure you send the application to the research office with enough lead time for review, just in case there are any amendments that need to be made before the submission deadline, which is the 12th of December, as Alice said. Please also be aware that any organisation that you want to be a part of your applicant team will need to be registered with TFS before your application is submitted. So please see the guidance on the website on how to do this, and please allow enough time to submit this. You will not be able to submit your application after this date. Next slide, please. So just a quick note on the application and assessment process. Full details on what to include in every question on your application are provided on the Opportunity Funding Finder and within the funding service. Some of those questions listed here will form the criteria for the assessment process. Next slide, please. Please note that your applicant teams must include an international project co-lead. Please refer to the guidance provided on the webpage for further details on eligibility and costs. An important note, project co-leads from UK business, third sector or government organisations can be included in the applicant team, but project co-leads from international business, third sector or government organisations are not eligible to be included in the applicant team. Just to recap, all applications need to be submitted through the funding service and before the deadline of the 12th of December 2024. You can find details on how to meet the assessment criteria on the Opportunity Funding Finder, and all applications must include an international project co-lead. Thank you.
Thanks, Lauren. That was really helpful. So we're now going to move to the part of the webinar where we answer questions that are submitted. And like I say, if you have a follow-up question or something you don't feel we've answered clearly enough, you can ask us to open up your microphone. So what we're looking for here, and I can see we've had some in already, are questions about the detail of the opportunity, the application and assessment process, or anything around timelines. And I invite Audrey to look at some of these questions around remit and how we assess what is 50% social science. Doesn't seem to be able to join us.
Sorry, I thought we were unmuted, but we weren't. Apologies. I'm using Lauren's information. Me and Lauren are in the same room, so we didn't want the double whammy of the noise. Yes, so it is standard practice for applications coming into ESRC that at least 50% of the application will fit within the social science remit, and so this is an expectation here. Evidence synthesis in some areas is far more advanced than it is in social science, so it is quite important to us that it's moving social science evidence synthesis forward. Was that the answer in the question? Because I can't see the question, I'm sorry.
The question is, how is it going to be assessed that at least 50% of the project focuses on social science? Isn't it in fact a contradiction with requiring that the project does not focus on a specific scientific theme or domain? And then another one, how will we measure the percentage of focus and effort from the social scientists? Will it be based on, from social sciences, will it be based on spend, for example?
No, I mean, it won't be, we won't go into that fine level of detail of checking remit. So ultimately, unless it's very clear that there is no social science in an application or very limited social science in the application, then we might challenge it. But other than that, as long as it's very clear that social science is at least 50% of the application, then we shouldn't have to challenge it. And that might be the type of people that are included in the team or the areas that you're looking at. So I don't know what you're going to put forward, so it's hard to say without seeing your applications.
Oh, that's helpful. Thank you, Audrey. We've had a couple of questions about, is it possible to be a co-applicant on more than one application? Is there any way in which we're managing that or limiting people being an applicant on multiple applications?
I guess I'd leave that one to you, because we haven't got, I mean, mainly the main rule about anything like that is that they can't overcommit on time. So unless you Alice or James, you don't feel you want people being on more than one application, we haven't sort of said that was an expectation.
I think it's fine for people to be on more than one application.
Agreed.
So as long as they don't exceed the amount of hours, which is equivalent to pretty much 37.5 hours a week, in expected costings, then we wouldn't have an issue with it.
There's a question here about, can UK government staff, e.g. from DWP, DCMS or DSIT, be co-leads on the opportunity?
Again, look at the business, third sector and government guidance. So I think it's very clear in the guidance what we can and will allow. Generally speaking, no, because of the costing aspect, and also obviously the partners that we might want included as part of this project anyway. But do read clearly the guidance. It should be clear enough, and if it's not, do come back.
But that's in relation to co-leads rather than they can be listed on an application as a partner. Can I just check that, Audrey?
So they can have business and third sector UK co-leads. They can add government co-leads, but they can't cost them.
Okay.
Other than TNS usually. But I think the guidance is in the business third sector co-lead guidance that we've got.
Can I ask James for you to answer a question we've had on, can you please talk through working with UN SDG synthesis team? So maybe give a bit more explanation of that link.
Yeah, I mean, I think Alice, you set this out a little bit in your slides. We don't expect bidders to be engaging with the UN or the UN SDG Synthesis Coalition. We will facilitate that contact once the assessment process has come to an end and we have awarded the grant. There will then be a co-design phase for the winners to work closely with and co-design their program, refine their program over that 9-month period that Alice talked about.
Thank you. I'll answer this one. So do you have a preference for specific subjects? Would law and digital regulation be within the scope? I don't think it's for us to have a preference. We've set out quite clearly that you should look at the Nesta report, and that the selection of the demonstrator projects and the areas that they cover you need to evidence that it responds to user need. So I think what we'd be looking to see is that there's an alignment with the UN SDGs, that it responds to the areas identified in the Nesta report, and that you have carried out some kind of engagement that demonstrates that the area that you're choosing to focus on responds to a need that policymakers have. Law would definitely be within scope, ESRC and digital regulation. So yes, they would be considered part of the remit of social science. Hopefully that helps with that one. It's a good question here. How will you be assessing the stakeholder co-design element, i.e. first 9 months in proposals? I'll have a go, and maybe James, you can chip in. So I think what we'd be looking to see is that you've thought through very carefully who you would need to engage and the mechanisms that you would use for that. And I think when we say engagement, we do mean kind of a sustained ongoing conversation through which you collaboratively design different elements of the grant, because what we're really looking for is that the funding funds a set of activities, tools, processes that respond to the needs of policymakers. That's often the bit I think that's missing, is that third objective around translation. So we're obviously interested in advancing evidence synthesis, particularly in social sciences, but what we're really interested in is then that evidence making its way through effectively into being used by policymakers. We do ask that you obviously submit applications that describe the full 5 years, but we're expecting that there will obviously be some flexibility and some adaptations made. I don't know, James, if you've got anything to add about that initial co-design phase.
No, I think that covers it from my perspective. This is about setting out your approach to that co-design phase, how you're going to bring some of these partners in that we've discussed, how you're going to work with other existing infrastructure, and thinking through how you can evidence that users really are involved in setting the priorities, the questions, and the types of outputs. You know, this is really driven by a need to get evidence into policy. So how is that co-design phase going to help you do that?
Thanks. There's a question here on, is the expectation that the project lead will be a social scientist, or would it be sufficient to meet the 50% social science criteria across the project, but with the lead being, for example, an expert in AI? I don't think we go down to the level of detail of a project lead and their discipline. And in fact, when I was speaking about the objectives earlier in the leadership team, we would expect there to be somebody in that leadership team that had cutting edge knowledge of AI tools and methods. Audrey, do you have anything to contradict me on there in terms of, does the project lead need to be from social sciences? No.
Totally agree. And as you say, stats, computing and methods is actually considered a social science anyway.
Okay, great. Thank you. Just going through the questions here. If anyone else can see one that they can respond to, please do jump in.
There's a few questions. Oh, sorry, Alice, you go on.
No, it's fine. Go ahead.
So there's a few questions I can see we haven't addressed. So there's one, you stressed the importance of the leadership team. Is the emphasis on a single project lead response deliberate here? I'm not quite sure what the question means by that single project lead, but I think what we were stressing is the importance of the leadership team in delivering our objectives. We don't think that this can be delivered by any single person. There is a technical thing with applying to UKRI funding where you do need to have a lead, a project lead and a lead research organisation. So that might be, I don't know whether Audrey wants to say something about how that works in terms of needing to be there needs to be a project lead and a lead organisation.
Yes, so as James says, your application will specify the core team, but the way funding is worked out is that we do currently fund through UKRI directly to a host eligible UK research organisation. So that is where mainly we have just to identify the lead, because that's where the funding will go, and then it will be the responsibility of that host RO to then sort out where it goes from there to other partners, project leads.
I think as well, our emphasis maybe throughout on Project Lead International is that there are different rules that apply in terms of who can be a project co-lead in an international context versus in a UK context. And we've had some questions through about that. So we were just trying to emphasise, I think particularly there, that there are different types of organisations that we can fund at an international level. And we do require there to be an international co-lead. So we want to make sure that whoever's selected and put through in your application is someone that's eligible to receive funding as an international co-lead.
For a few other questions I can see we haven't addressed. What is meant by evidence synthesis? Can you provide examples? So we define evidence synthesis in the call specification and give some examples. I'll just go through that. So evidence synthesis is distinct from just, say, regular literature reviews by the fact it is applying a rigorous and systematic approach to assessing bodies of knowledge, to searching, identifying, collating, quality appraising, and analysing relevant evidence from multiple studies. It needs to be a process that you can replicate. And it needs to be based on predefined criteria, and that's to inform both scientific understanding and decision making on specific issues. And that might some of the types of outputs you might get from evidence synthesis are evidence and gap maps, rapid evidence reviews, systematic evidence reviews, realist reviews, and living evidence reviews are all examples we put in the specification. With all of that, it's really important for this call, because of the focus on research users, that we think about the design of tools and methods to communicate evidence synthesis effectively to policymakers as well. So that's the definition we have provided in the call specification. And then there's a few other questions or points. How will you be sourcing peer reviewers for the call? I don't know, Alice or Audrey, whether you want to say a bit about that. But then someone's offering to contribute to the process. If you think you have relevant expertise and want to contribute to the process, I'd say please just email the team. You should have the email address already. We're really keen to hear from you. But Alice, Audrey, I don't know whether you want to say more on the peer reviewer process.
I'm happy to say something about it. So we're looking for a really broad range of different expertise to assess this investment, or the applications for this investment. That would include people with very technical skills, but then also those people that have used this approach in their research work, and then would also include users, so people who work in a policy making setting. Also, bearing in mind it's an international investment, we'll be looking for a breadth of different experience, so looking at people who are based in different parts of the world, particularly including people who work in the global south. So it's a really broad pool of people that we'll be drawing on, and will ensure that each application has a breadth of perspectives in terms of those people that are reviewing the application. Don't know if there's anything you want to add to that, Audrey.
Covers it, thank you.
We'd welcome any offers from anyone who's obviously not applying for the opportunity
Yes.
to be involved in the.
Ultimately, yes. You can't be a reviewer if you're actually going to submit an application.
And then there's a question about, will you be sharing a list of who's participating in the call today?
Yeah,
and apologies, I thought we had done that, but we will, Alice, we will be circulating a list, won't we, after the call?
My colleague Saskia replied to say that we will, but if anyone does not wish their details to be circulated, please let us know by emailing the address that's on their funding finder page. There's a question here around, is this call interested in how grey literature might be incorporated into evidence synthesis of peer-reviewed literature? Don't know if, James, you want to take that one.
We do say something in the specification about this, and I think for us it's important that grey literature is included within the remit of this. And we talk about grey literature in terms of government and international evaluations, and we give the example that the United Nations holds a database of in the region of 25,000 evaluations. So that's grey literature that we would like to see utilised within this. And I think the question's also getting to the point about how do you combine grey literature with published academic research, and I think obviously any thoughts on that as well are very relevant. Thank you.
There's a question here about, do the partners have to be based in the UK as well, and do they have to be based at universities and or research institutions? I think it would depend where they are, so they don't have to be based at a university or research institution in the UK, but they would internationally. Audrey, correct me if I'm wrong.
Yeah, no, that's correct. So business, third sector and government are eligible as long as they're part of they're in the UK, but not internationally.
There's a question here around early career researcher and policy practitioner development. Can we link to the Doctoral Training Centre's Doctoral Training Partnership provision? I don't see why not, but I think with costings, you need to be careful that the activity that you're costing for isn't double funding something that we've already funded. But in terms of a good resource to work with, I can't see there being any issue there. On government organisations being co-leads, can government agencies that are public sector research establishments, I think that stands for, claim costings? Audrey.
So I'm going to have to visit this one. You could certainly, there is guidance, and we'll put it in the frequently asked questions. There are certain PSREs that are already registered with UKRI as being eligible for funding or eligible for applying. So I would just need to check about the costings part of that question, because I'm actually not sure. I'd assume that as long as they were eligible and justified costs, they could be claimed at 80%, but I would have to check, because it's not a question I've had before. So
thank you. We can publish a written response to that when we add the document. So the PDF document of the Q&As, both questions that we've got here and questions we've had by email, will be added to the Funding Finder page along with a recording of this session.
And I think if you aren't from, or the PSRE isn't already registered, you can contact UKRI. But as I say, we'll share the link to where that information is on the UKRI website.
Thank you. There's a question around, does platform and tool development fall within ESRC scope? So would that be classed as social science activity in terms of the 50%?
I think, I mean,
I was going to say, it sounds like it probably would do, yeah.
Yeah, Audrey, I don't know, correct me if I'm wrong on this, but the platform and tool development we were referring to in the context of translation and knowledge exchange with policy stakeholders. So if those platforms and tools are translating and engaged in knowledge exchange of social science evidence, then yeah, I think that would count within ESRC's remit.
And within the same question, do you have a sense of the relative effort you're seeking on developing platforms and tools and conducting demonstration reviews? So demonstrator projects that could be living evidence reviews.
I mean, I think on this one, we're really looking for bidders to give us a sense of what they think the relative effort needs to be given the objectives. So there is a lot of flexibility, even though we've got fairly defined objectives, for you to put forward a proposal that you think matches the ambition and delivers against the objectives. So we're not defining proportions of effort versus each objective. If that makes sense. There's also a question here on different types of AI technology. I've obviously mentioned generative AI in my introduction. That was in no way an introduction, in no way an indication that we want chatbots and large language model technologies to be the focus here. It's really any tools that you think are relevant, any AI, machine learning, any other types of tools that fall within that definition that you think are relevant, you can put forward. For example, we know that large language models hallucinate. There are biases. There are issues with large language model technologies around data extraction, for example, and there might be other more appropriate types of tools and methods to do data extraction or other parts of the evidence synthesis process. So it really is down to you and the experts in the methodology and the AI to define this for us.
There's a question here on commercial partners. Is it desirable to have commercial partners, e.g. those producing state-of-the-art large language models? And if so, how can they be funded? So I think it is certainly possible.
So I would say they're going to, as long as they're UK based, they should come under the UK business eligibility as project co-leads. Please do make sure that you're looking at the subsidy control guidance from the government, because we have to adhere to that as a funder, and so therefore just to sort of be aware of the potential economic advantage that may incur as a result of somebody from a commercial organisation being part of a application, but it's certainly allowable. So yes, but again, I believe we've got the link to the business third sector governments,
I believe so,
co-applicants on as a link in the guidance. Apologies, there is an awful lot of guidance, but we do have an awful lot to cover. So yes, so that it is there. But yes, if they're needed on the application and you can justify their role, then yes, you can.
Thank you.
Just on commercial partners as well. So we mentioned earlier that there's been significant interest from, say, tech companies. Some of you might have seen on X that Anthropic has offered the winning bidders use of their models. So that's the type of interest that we're getting there, and you don't necessarily need to have that built in into the bid now, but you could articulate how you would engage with that type of interest during the co-design phase as well. I think that would be appropriate.
There's also an offer here as a question from UKHSA. So I'd ask people to look in the questions for that. Are there specific rules for civil service organisations listed by UKRI regarding receiving funding from this project? You mentioned something about funding conflict. So I think that was useful. Yeah.
Yeah, sorry. So we are going back to the project co-leads from UK business, third sector or government. So civil servant falls under government. Actually, in the guidance, there's quite a handy little table that talks about the costs. And yes, admittedly for government, because we are also an arm's length body, we wouldn't provide funding for somebody who's already been funded through the, not funded, but being paid through the government. So actually TNS costs, generally speaking, are the only allowable costs for civil service government co-applicants.
Audrey, there's a question here about application form word limit being limited to 2,000 words, which is shorter than a standard grant at 2,500 words. Is that correct? Can you say something about the application form?
So I'm assuming they mean a particular section. So the whole form is not 2,000 words limit. So it's broken down into sections. First section being the summary, which has a limit which has been specified by UKRI. The next section is the vision section, which may be 2,000. I'm not sure, I can't remember off the top of my head. And then you have another section called the approach section, which also has its word limit. So in total, it's going to be a lot more than 2,000. It's split down. You will then find you've got a section about the core team. You will have a section about data management. Yeah, there are a lot more sections in there. And we also require an attachment from the head of the department or someone of the higher level to confirm the commitment from the host RO. So yeah, when you go through it, you'll see it's more than 2,000. That may just be one of the sections is 2,000, which I think is a few pages.
On the commitment from the host RO, there's a question here about what the total fund is, which I think might relate to international funding policy. So the first bit, well, one of the parts of the question is about potentially only one project will be funded. And yes, it is our ambition that this call will just fund one broad infrastructure project. And then there's a question around the total fund amount is 11.5. That's the full economic cost of the application. So that would include the research organisation's contribution. I don't know, Audrey, if you want to talk about international costs.
So we did look at this quite painfully because obviously we have a particular budget ourselves that we are limited to, and obviously once the grant is funded it will also get indexation added to it once it's funded. So we have stated quite clearly that our maximum for ESRC contribution is 9.2 million. So that might well be your steer. So if your 100% costs end up taking you over 9.2 million, then you need to recost your application.
Thank you, that's clear.
There's a question here about what if bidders already have links to UN agencies, for example, UNICEF, UNESCO. Obviously, that's fine, and you can articulate in your bid how you will plan to work with them. But what we're really clear on is that they cannot be engaged or contribute to any bids. So you cannot bring them into your planning process or your bidding process or pulling your proposal together. You can obviously articulate how you would plan to work with them longer term. Don't know if there's anything you would say on that, Alice.
I was just going to say that we're continuing to work closely with different partners, and we'll continue to do so right up until next summer, so that we have plans in place for the successful applicant to engage with them. So in a way, that's us supporting the application and in providing that. Going back to percentages of costs, there's another one here. What level of institutional commitment is expected? Thoughts from Audrey?
We haven't set a figure, have we? So obviously the standard 20% is expected of all host ROs for any application through UKRI, unless it's an exceptionally development country-led opportunity. But we haven't stated any other, as far as I'm aware. I mean, clearly we want to know that host organisations and any partner organisations have bought into this, and obviously the sustainability of the project afterwards, so the infrastructure itself once the 5-year funding has ended. So, but we haven't stated any figure other than the standard, as I understand it. I don't recall us stating any other figure.
Yeah, thank you. And relating to this, referring back to your response about civil service organisations being eligible for TNS funding only, does this imply that the 80-20 rule does not apply to this project?
Yeah, sorry, Adele, I'm not really sure I understand your question. So a civil service organisation could not be the host RO. So they could only be a project co-lead. So the funding goes to the host RO with the expectation that we contribute 80% usually, although some costs are at 100%, and then the host RO meets the 20%. So I'm a little bit unclear about your question, if I'm honest.
I think the difference was around the funding that can be received by someone who's based in a government department, and we stated there that it's just TNS funding. They can't receive funding towards the costs of the project.
Yeah,
and then we're talking about funding that's awarded to the research organisation. Obviously, the breakdown there, we haven't explicitly said 80-20, as we've just explained.
Yeah.
And that's because when international costings are considered, it's less straightforward than 80-20. But as Audrey said, we would be looking to see significant commitment, both from the host RO, but also from the partners that are on the bid. A question around DSIT. As DSIT have a focus on this area, are we able to discuss this with DSIT colleagues? I don't think we explicitly mentioned, but it does say on the funding finder that DSIT are actually a co-funder of this opportunity. So I would put them in the same bracket as other partners, and we would facilitate those conversations once a team of people have been awarded the grant.
So there's a question from Hafsa saying, I'm unclear, do potential partners on the application have to be based in UK as well? Example, we can't have a partner from the US or the UAE. So if you're talking about project partners, then project partners from anywhere, as long as they're suitable and they're providing some sort of in-kind contribution to the project, can be added. It's when we're talking about costings that we cannot support the funding of a project co-lead from international business, third sector or government departments. But if you have somebody who's a similar vein as a UK HEI, they could be added as an international project co-lead. This is what we're expecting.
There's a further question on funding. As long as the maximum ESRC contribution is 9.2 million, can the full economic cost figure be higher, which it may be if costs for international project co-leads costs are included? We have set a limit of 11.5.
Yes.
So that's what we're working. Yeah. Those are the parameters, aren't they? The maximum.
Yes.
Costs of
so
the opportunity.
No, the answer there is unfortunately no. 11.2 is the maximum, but what we didn't want people to do is then up the ESRC contribution figure to 11.2 because we don't have that.
Thank you. Someone's put a comment here that CFAST is a civil service organisation and also a UKRI listed organisation.
As in eligible to apply? So if they are an independent research organisation, they will have gone through the process of funding assurance to be registered, and in which case, yes, if they've done that, if they've gone through that route, then they'll be on our list of independent research organisations eligible to apply.
James, do you want to take this question? A lot of the international leaders in the evidence synthesis community are not based in universities. Can you explain the decision to exclude them as potential international co-leads, please?
Is this, Audrey might be better placed on this one than I, because I think this is a question to do with where our funding can flow.
Yes.
I'd say we haven't taken a decision to exclude anyone. What we're working with is within the parameters of what we're allowed to fund as a government agency.
This is UKRI policy. It's a funding assurance requirement because this is our taxpayers' money that we are spending to ensure the safety of the payments. If the organisation you're talking about has a particular research base, there may be the possibility that they can be classed as an equivalent, but it really is up to your research organisation to look into that. So I think we've already got the link, but we will also share the link to the guidance on international co-Is. Project co-leads, sorry, names changed since Jez. So that you can see that the sort of things that your research organisation will need to do to check whether somebody could be considered as an eligible international. So we're not saying no international organisation, but they have to have certain criteria that they meet, one of them being that they have the certain research capacity within that organisation. But that's something for yourself to speak to your research organisation or research office about, to clearly understand whether or not somebody can be added.
Yeah. So I think it's really important that you look at the guidance and that you liaise with the staff that are based in the lead applicant organisation, so the research organisation that's putting the application in. Thank you so much for all of those questions. We will go through them and produce a written response to all of them, including those that we maybe didn't have time to answer today. Thanks so much for joining us. And like I say, a recording of this webinar will be available soon, and we will message you to let you know. Thanks again.
Thank you, everyone.
Bye.
Thank you.